A means no and Achalasia means relaxation. So there is no relaxation, or we can simply say there is increased tone. So where is this increased tone going to be? It's going to be at the lower esophageal sphincter. Some sources also include aperistalsis as part of achalasia, and I'll do the same too. Let's add up. Aperistalsis in the esophagus plus increased tone at the lower esophageal sphincter is simply achalasia. Before we move on to what happens in this condition, I'll just give a brief summary of the histology of esophagus. This will really help you understand the pathophysiology. Now, this is a picture of esophagus, the lower esophageal sphincter and stomach. And if we take a section of esophagus, it will look something like this. Esophagus includes 4 layers from inside to outside: the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and serosa. The submucosa and the muscularis externa has a nerve plexus which constitutes the enteric nervous system. In the submucosa, it's called the Meissner's plexus, which is concerned mostly with the secretory function. In the muscularis externa, it's called the myenteric plexus, which controls the motor activity. For this condition, we're just concerned with the myenteric plexus and hence the muscularis externa only. The muscularis externa is composed of 3 layers: the outer longitudinal layer of muscles, the myenteric plexus, and the inner circular layer of muscles. As I've already stated, the myenteric plexus controls motor activity, which includes peristalsis and relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter through release of nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal peptide from inhibitory neurons. Now, if this plexus is damaged somehow, it's going to result in 2 things: aperistalsis and increased tone at the lower esophageal sphincter. We can divide the cause of damage into 2 groups, primary and secondary. The former results from idiopathic damage to inhibitory neurons within the plexus, vagus nerve, or motor nucleus of the vagus nerve. Okay, that's a lot of information in one sentence. So basically, normal pathway looks something like this. The motor nucleus of the vagus nerve lies in the medulla oblongata of the brainstem. From this nucleus arises the preganglionic nerve fibers, with synapses with the postganglionic nerve fibers of the myenteric plexus. Now, if any part of this pathway is damaged, it will obviously affect the motor activity. Next step are secondary causes, which include Chagas disease, which is caused by Trypanosoma cruzi, diabetes, which can damage nerves, infiltrative diseases like malignancies, amyloidosis, and sarcoidosis, surgical removal or lesion in the dorsal motor nucleus. Let's move on to the clinical features. This is what esophagus of a person who suffers from achalasia looks like. So, since the sphincter is not functioning properly, food is going to pile up and this will eventually dilate the esophagus. There is going to be dysphagia for both solids and liquids. Why? Because peristalsis is required to swallow both. Food piles up and starts to rot, giving rise to bad breath. Also, there is going to be weight loss and increased risk for squamous cell carcinoma. Diagnosis is done by 2 ways. First up, we have the barium swallow, which looks something like this. So basically, as food piles up, esophagus dilates, and due to increased tone at the lower esophageal sphincter, it has a tapered end, which resembles bird's beak. The other way is esophageal manometry, which shows a weak pressure wave due to decreased peristalsis and increased resting pressure at lower esophageal sphincter due to increased tone. Treatment is done by 3 ways. There is laparoscopic myotomy, in which the muscles of the lower esophageal sphincter are cut. There is pneumatic balloon dilation, in which a balloon is inserted and then inflated, and this opens the lower esophagus. And finally, in some cases, we use Botox injections, which sort of induces flaccid paralysis at the lower esophageal sphincter. Okay, so that's it. I hope you guys found this video informative. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.